You can't achieve happiness.
And you can't expect somebody else to make you happy.
Sometimes we just go from one achievement to the next without even celebrating the achievements that we set out to make. At the end of the day, it's not about the achievements. The happiness is a choice. It starts internally. It starts with yourself. And if you don't address some of the issues that are the root of, the unhappiness, it's not your spouse. Thriving in Tandem. It's a podcast for you, the married entrepreneur that wants to win in business and marriage at the same time.
Welcome to Thriving in Tandem.
Hey, welcome back to Thriving in Tandem. And today's episode is titled, Business Achievements Won't Make You Happy. You can't achieve happiness.
And you can't expect somebody else to make you happy. Or things.
Yeah, because happiness at the end of the day is a choice. And really, we've talked about this stuff before, but I think this episode, we're going to see how this goes because I think there's some raw emotions going on. We talk about the need for work-life balance, to take care of yourself, take care of your relationships, that achieving in business, achieving in anything, whether it's sports or finances or business, your career or whatever, we're always going after those things in pursuit of happiness. We think the money or the achievements are going to make us happy. But at the end of the day, and those that are old enough like us know, looking back, those things don't achieve happiness. Those things are very short-lived. We're happy for the moment. Sometimes we're not. Sometimes we just go from one achievement to the next without even celebrating the achievements that we've set out to make.
Or things like, I just have to have that handbag. And then you get it. And then after 6 months, what do you want, another one? It's not what you thought it was going to be. All different things. Did it really make me happy?
Yeah, because
no.
You're chasing after one thing after another. And so today, we really want to cut through the noise and let's get real. No matter how successful your business becomes, it will not guarantee you happiness. It won't make your spouse love you more. It's not going to improve your kids' behavior or earn you genuine admiration. At the end of the day, it's not about the achievements. The happiness is a choice. It starts internally. It starts with yourself. And if you don't address some of the issues that are the root of, the unhappiness, it's not your spouse, right?
And you can totally see this in celebrities. Just look at some of the models, the beauty of the prettiest of the pretty. They get divorced or they have gazillion of dollars. And there's no guarantee that they're not going to get divorced either. A lot of them do. They're on their 4th, 5th, 7th marriage. Yeah, it's not a matter of money or success.
I guess I better bring the mic a little closer, huh? Sorry if we sounded a little distant there. But, and also, this issue, reason why I wanted to do this episode today was because, just the other day, I got a call from a wife of a founder of a business that, we're good friends with, right? And they're doing very well from the outside. But all of a sudden, I get a call from the wife and says they're splitting up. They're taking a 3-month break from each other and in pursuit of, from the husband's perspective, happiness. That they're gonna go to counseling and all that, which is great and all that. But, I've been friends with them for a while, a number of years now. And sorry, about probably 5 years ago, he was just, he's always been working hard. He was always wired that way. But I was questioning him, are you taking a break? You need to take a break. I knew he wasn't taking a break. Just when he talked, he's always busy. And so, we're really, not just me, but some other close friends were saying, hey, you need to back off. And then he basically had, I don't know if he was diagnosed with nervous breakdown, but basically had a nervous breakdown. And he really had to scale back. He had to take a break. And then he got better as far as taking at least one day off. We'd golf quite a bit during that period. But then all of a sudden, as he got healthier, he fell back into the same trap. And again, I'm noticing this thing. And, even 2 months ago, one of our other friends were saying, hey, how are you taking care of yourself? And then next thing I know, I get a call from the wife saying that they're splitting up. And it just hit me and it grieved me because this was preventable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, prayerfully, they get back together, reconcile and all that. But even right now, this whole split it just grieved me. It just really made me upset because, especially what I heard, what he told the kids, why he's going to go away for 3 months was because he wasn't happy.
Well, and I think that's a lot of expectation, high expectation to put on your spouse to expect them to make you happy.
Well,
And it's unrealistic.
yeah, and the thing that kind of pissed me off about that was that what he said to the kids was, now the kids are thinking they're not making them happy, right? And I'm like, man, that is a low. You're talking to the spouse. I'm thinking of the kids. The spouse can, I mean, you're older and hopefully you can be a little bit more resilient and all that, understand the situation. But the kids, some of them are, teenagers. And so, to have that, like, what? You're leaving because you're not happy, which means I'm not making you happy.
Yeah, and how does a child process through that? I mean, what does that exactly look like? I mean, the child's going to take that on as that's their fault.
Exactly. And so that really upset me. And also they're splitting because you're not happy. It's like, okay, it's not because your spouse was unfaithful or there's any abuse. There's none of those, those things where you go, okay, yeah, you need to get out of the house, right? This is just, I'm not happy.
Don't we all have days where we're not happy? I mean, I know I do.
Yeah. And so, what I've seen, I think part of the reason why he was working so much too was to try and find happiness outside when he's traveling for business and, meeting new people and helping other people and all that kind of stuff. And so,
or he just doesn't have to deal with what's going on internally with him, because if you're busy enough and running all over and running ragged, you just don't think about that stuff. You just kind of stuff it down and move on.
Yeah. And so that's where, really have to take account of yourself. So in this, as you're listening, really take an account for yourself. Like, what were some of the warning signs? All of a sudden you're traveling a lot and you're not feeling fulfilled. Well, it's not your spouse, not your kids, it's not the work. It's like you got to start looking internally. And he was so busy that he wasn't taking care of himself. Right? He was just basically, it was a band-aid to address or overcome or hide the issue that was really going on deep inside. And so when you feel yourself kind of driven to succeed or driven for achievements, you might want to ask yourself why. Because at the end of the day, you should know by now, how happy does one goal, one milestone, another 100K or another million, how much does that really make you happy? Because if it truly made you happy, you'd probably pause, right? You wouldn't be going after the next thing. So that means that it's just like a drug that creates a short-term fix that's not eternal or that's not long-lasting.
Well, and I think it's also, before you get to that point, good to take a look at what does success look like to you? Not like, all the celebrities and all the stuff, but what does it look like to you as a family?
Yeah.
Or as a business or individually, but not comparing yourself to the Joneses and thinking, I have to compete with that. And that's what success looks like. And that's what happiness looks like. Because that's not at all.
Yeah, because that kind of measuring against other people, whether competing against the Joneses, so to speak, is basically you're just telling yourself that you don't know what it takes to be happy.
Right.
And you're using somebody else as the litmus test, but achieving what they're achieving or more doesn't necessarily make me happy because you don't even know what's making you happy.
Well, when I get there, I'll be happy. Well, that's not necessarily the case, especially if that doesn't bring happiness to you.
Yeah, because then you have to go get another car or another watch or another $1 million or whatever, right? You reach one milestone, but there's a short-term happiness, but then that fades, and that means you got to go for the next one. And so you really have to ask yourself is, what really makes me happy? And it has to be more internal. Start with yourself. What about yourself would make you happier? And
it could be small things. I mean, gosh, for me, going to the beach makes me happy. That's like my total happy place. Or being at the lake, reading a good book. It doesn't have to be a lot of times something huge. Hanging out with my girlfriends, going on date night. It's the small things that add up that bring happiness.
Yeah, and we're talking about also, long-term happiness, like true happiness, internal. Like, what is it? And you can't put it on your spouse, your kids, the business, and all that. Like I said, that it has to start with you. And so you really have to identify, what is it? Why do I feel like I have to drive to succeed in order to get happiness that doesn't really last? So what is it I need to do for myself? Right? And a lot of it is, finding the root of it goes back to childhood. We did that work in counseling before we got married. And I think it's the way we're raised, like especially as guys, whether it's sports or grades or whatever, we're always, my parents or my dad was always, it's about grades, or it's about whatever I'm doing, do it well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if I do it well and I succeed, then you get the pat on the back. And if I don't, then you get kind of a scolding. Right. And so we're kind of wired that in order to be happy or to even receive, positive affirmation, you've got to choose something, as opposed to, hey, son, you're just a great son.
Mm-hmm.
For no reason at all, you get congratulations, you get affirmations. But because the affirmations are always tied to some kind of achievement, therefore we're wired, or we think growing up, what's in our mindset is, in order to be happy, in order to get recognition, I've got to do something. I can't just be happy, just being me, just sitting here recording a podcast, right? Or going to the beach. That going to the beach, being with you, honey, being with the dog, that's cool. Mm-hmm. And we can be totally at peace and happy with that, and not have to think about, oh, I'm not working, which means I'm falling behind, and therefore I'm not going to get happiness. Right?
Well, and I think for women too, it could be in the family and it can be in the workplace, is we're trying to make everybody else happy but us. And we're running ourselves rugged. And we're like the last to take care of ourselves because we're trying to fix things for everybody else.
Yeah. And so that's a good segue about, we need to start, number one, take care of yourself. I mean, you hear a lot about self-help stuff. Some of that stuff gets kind of woo-woo, but there's truth to this thing where it is about, you do have to take care of yourself first. It's just like when you're on an airplane, I'm sure you've heard this analogy before, right? When to talk about if the oxygen mask falls down, and if you're with your young kid or something like that, you put the oxygen mask on yourself first. You take care of yourself first. That way you can take care of somebody else. But if you're suffocating and dying, you're no good to anybody else, right? And so taking care of yourself first is actually very important.
And that means, ladies, it's okay to say no to some things, especially if it's things we really don't want to do. We don't feel called to. We're just doing it probably for the wrong reasons. It's okay to say no to those things, or no for now, so that we can have a little time for ourselves.
Yeah. And it starts with, number one, you got to be okay with not working and just taking one day out of the week at least to really decompress, kind of relax, do something fun, do something re-energizing. Just no work, take your mind off of work, take your mind off the phone and texts and social media and all that, and just be present with yourself, right? And it's going to be uncomfortable. And you notice, you high achievers, I know it's uncomfortable, right?
It's just very awkward.
Sit there and sit in the day and do nothing. Not nothing like just sitting there and watching TV, but I'm just talking about not working, not doing something that you would deem productive for the business, right? I know a lot of our clients, it's always that was the first hard thing to do, was to actually take a day off and not think about work, not do something remotely associated to work, right? Just to be present with the kids or spouse, or just go on a hike, right? And we've talked, enough on previous episodes of the benefits of rest. But the first thing is, you are going to have to be able to get to the point to be okay with just being present with yourself, with no other distractions. Right?
That's true. And I think too, after that is being able to connect with other people, like, going out with your girlfriends, being able to put the phone down, have a conversation with them, just enjoy each other. Going out on a date, I think I've talked about this before. I thought, you see a couple out and they're both on their phone, and I thought, oh, how cute, they're texting each other. Well, later I found out they're not texting each other. They don't say a word to each other all night, but they're texting other people. So, you want to connect with your family. You want to connect with your coworkers and the people that you have employed, and your vendors, your clients. And that means being intentional and giving them your attention.
Yeah, so that's the segue to with your spouse, right? After taking care of yourself, being present for yourself, then also spend the time with your spouse and your kids to connect. And also, it's not just a connection time, but there's also, there's probably some topics or issues that you need to discuss. When you're constantly on the go, going from one thing after another, and you're, you say you're, like, you're unhappy, at home because maybe it's something your wife does or doesn't do. But yet we don't talk about those things. And instead we just cover it up and just go be busy, right? Instead of taking the hard moment. Conflict is difficult, but as you know, honey, I don't like to do conflict.
Well, I'm not necessarily like to do it either.
I know, but I was when you came around.
Oh, yeah. Then I caused conflict.
Yes,
Is that what you're saying?
exactly. So, but
he had no conflict in his life, you guys, before he met me.
It's not that I didn't have conflict; it's just I didn't want to deal with conflict. So, anyways, I think when you're conflict avoidant and you're just working, I mean, again, we have to man up and deal with the issues instead of just covering up and hope it goes away and hope that being busy and achieving in business and all that will take care of the issues that we haven't discussed. And so the more and more things that we just put under the rug, right? We know this, we talked about this, that the bigger that the speed bump becomes a wall between husband and wife. Next thing you know, I'm not happy. And part of it, and I think you have to take account for yourself, as have you dealt with not just your own issue, but then also whatever conflict there might be in your marriage that you just haven't addressed or you haven't really addressed very well because maybe you've just stopped talking about it because you can never resolve it, right? But you're going to having problems resolving the issue, go get help.
Yeah, and it seems like we notice it a lot. It's nothing new, but midlife, all of a sudden these childhood things start popping up and people don't want to deal with them. And then you wake up one day and you're not happy and you want out.
Yeah.
And the family's like, what? What happened? We had no idea.
Yeah.
I saw it in my childhood. My dad worked 6 days a week. I swear I don't think he wanted to be home with 4 strong-willed children. It was much easier for him just to go to work, and he didn't want to deal with any of it. And he definitely didn't want to deal with conflict.
Yeah, it's an amazing, like when whatever spouse initiates the separation, it's usually a surprise to the other person. Well, I don't know if usually, but a lot of times, like I didn't see this coming. Like this scenario we just talked about, the wife didn't see it coming. And
kids definitely
didn't see it coming. Because it gets to the point, right? We avoid the conflict, we avoid the issue, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until we can't handle it anymore. And then we say, I'm out, right? And that's not fair to the spouse, the kids, right? I mean, you knew this was an issue and it was bugging you, but you weren't brave enough to address it. And so man up or woman up, depends on who's listening. I mean, if there's an issue in a marriage that you're not happy about, talk about it. And I know a lot of times, especially if you've been married long enough, it's a hot button. And you probably think, oh, he or she is just going to explode and we can't talk about it. Like I said, go get help. Here's this couple. They're now going to go to counseling, kind of 1 foot out the door. And that's not the time to do this. The time to go get help, go get a third party is now.
Well, I think it's also good to do a tune-up. You know what I mean? Like they got all kinds of counselors, they got retreats, all kinds of different things you can do for tune-ups. We've seen couples that, some of them haven't got away in 20 years together. You know what I mean? It's like a long, long time. And just haven't had any alone time. Yeah.
And so my suggestion, right, number one is you got to deal with the issue, right? Really step back. If you're finding yourself, you just can't help it, but you can't turn it off, right? You can't turn business off. Is you're going to have to take a pause, take a moment, sit down with your spouse and say, okay, why? And just talk this out. Don't make accusations, but why do I have a hard time just turning it off?
Well, I think if you're not happy, though, you need to take a look at yourself and think, why am I not happy, as opposed to why, I'm expecting everybody else to make me happy.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay.
I said, why is it hard for me to turn it off?
Okay.
Right. And so why is it so hard for me to turn it off and not work or think about work that I have to be doing all the time? Right. And so that's a discussion that's going to be an honest discussion that you have to explore, and it will cause you to have to go deeper than just the present. You're going to have to go into the past, into childhood. How did your parents acknowledge you positively? And what was the expectation? would they affirm you just for being you, or did they affirm you only if you did something, right? And so, and was there, such a perfectionist attitude at home, or what? Just really explore that. Is where does that come from? Where does this mindset come from? Because it's usually patterned to childhood, as you would say, right?
Mm-hmm. Family of origin, definitely.
Yeah, and then second piece is you're gonna have to take some maybe baby steps, right? Maybe not a full day off, but at least take a morning or an afternoon off, and just the best thing to do really is just turn off the phone, because even if you go for a hike or something like that, but you have your phone, you might be tempted to check it, especially after you get a notification, right? Or like Pavlov's dog, bing, and then we got to check it, right? Or even if you don't have it, we might check it just because we're afraid we missed something. And then the second piece then is we've got to sit down and have those moments to spend time with our spouse at least once a week, and for extended period of time, but every day we got to have those moments, just a few minutes to connect, right?
Well, and it's better to be proactive, get in front of it than behind it, because like with our friends, that's one foot in and one foot out. That's a tough place to be.
Yeah.
Because then the whole family's kind of up in air, like, what's going to happen here?
Yeah, and think about this, like when you step out, there's so many people to get affected.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I was just on the call this morning with their bookkeeper, just trying to manage finances, because with him gone, there's been kind of a slowdown in sales and revenue. And so I'm sitting down talking to her, and just, it's affecting her too. It's not just a job for her, but she's been with them for years, and they're friends, they're close. And to see the wife and the kids struggle and all that, it's affecting her too. So I remember, when she called me and I said, "How you doing?" And she said, "Oh, pretty good." I said, "No, really, how you doing?" And then she kind of laughed, right? She kind of laughed. She's like, "Well, trying to figure this out," right? And so, yeah, it affects not just you and your spouse, but then it affects the kids. The kids are pissed off at dad.
And they literally are, yes.
Pissed off. The staff is hurting, and there's so many ramifications now that thinking about what's gonna if we're praying for the best but planning for the worst, right? Is like we prayerfully hope they reconcile, but then what if they don't? And then what do you do with the business? Right? And so there's that aspect of it too that you got to start to think about. And I mean, it just complicates things. Right?
Yeah, and my heart goes out for the kids. I've been there. I know what it's like. It's a tough place to be. You're very confused. Everything's up in the air, and you feel like it's possibly your fault, and you could have done something, and it's just hard to process too.
Yeah, for sure. And so, really, again, getting real here. The feeling's a little raw. Pissed off that these things can be prevented. But yet our heart also goes out to the situation and the people involved. I mean, everyone, including the husband. I'm friends with the husband.
Everybody's hurting.
I'm friends. We're friends with all of them, and so not picking sides, but it's like, okay, everybody just take care of themselves, right? Prayerfully, if he really does the work, I mean, I think the marriage will take care of itself, because you're going to find, one is, even if you split up and get divorced, there's not another woman out there that's going to make him happy, because that's not the issue. It's not his wife. It's not the kids. It's not the business, right? It's him. And so once you get to that understanding and that kind of revelation, then I think the marriage and the family relationship kind of takes care of itself. So prayerfully, he does the work, and also she needs to do some work too, because there's healing involved. Because it takes two. And yes, in any conflict, it does take two. And so I think if both sides do the work, I think the relationship will take care of itself. And same for you. As you're listening, these things aren't easy to deal with, especially when you're not raised in an environment like both of us, that dealing with those issues, dealing with conflict was really happened very well. Right? And so we didn't have patterns or mentors, so to speak, we didn't have good models of how to do conflict and how to resolve issues. So of course it kind of impacted our relationship early on, but then we got help. We had counseling and gave us the tools to be able to do this. So, for us looking back, we can see there's a simple solution. Now it's still hard work.
It's not, that doesn't mean it's easy and right? It's just, exactly. We don't have conflicts anymore.
Right. So that's, Kaylee and I always have this discussion about simple versus easy. Kaylee likes it easy. I say simple because easy is usually a shortcut. Just do the easy way versus the better way. And the better way is very simple, but it's not easy. It's not always easy.
Yeah, so he doesn't want easy, you guys. So
I would love easy as long it led to long-term outcomes, right? Because a lot of times, like I said, a lot of times when people take the easy way out, I mean, you've heard this expression. If you take the easy way out, it's usually a shortcut that usually might be good for the moment, but it's not good long-term. And then it bites you in the butt later on. So anyways, resolving conflict, it's simple because there's principles involved. Resolving conflict, that's simple, but it's not easy because you're also dealing with emotions that have to get dealt with. That does make it hard, right? But if you do the work, right, take care of yourself first, focus on your relationships, really be able to get to the point to start taking that regular time off, completely off of work, even your mind off of work, which I know is difficult at times. That's why your spouse is going to have to help. You're going to have to hold each other accountable on this, right? Because it is hard in the beginning, but as you persevere and continue to do that, it does become like second nature, just like working all the time is second nature for you now.
Well, and you'll be a lot healthier because sometimes you're so tired. You just want to, I'm talking about myself. I just want to be crabby or grumpy or just like let you have it. And then I take self-control when I can do it. And I'm like, okay, I just need a minute to myself. Maybe I need to go for a walk, go to Trader Joe's, something to recollect myself.
Go to Trader Joe's. Yeah. So, well, I hope this episode was helpful. Again, we don't want to sugarcoat it. We want you to, we're serious about this. We talk about this all the time. I mean, we're 4 years into this podcast, but now it's like, even I think as we move forward, even with our clients and even friends that are close to us, we're just going to call them on the carpet because it's not because we're being upset at them. It's because we just don't want this to continue to happen. We see it around us too much and it's time to stop it.
Yeah, we really want you guys to be successful in your business and in marriage.
Yeah, you can have both, but let's focus on our relationship first, and then you can still build a thriving business. So please share this with another married entrepreneur that needs to hear this. I'm sure you can recognize it in other people, probably better than you recognize yourself, right? So go ahead and share this, and we'd love a review. And until next week, God bless. Thank you for listening to the Thriving in Tandem podcast. Please visit our website, marriedentrepreneur.co, for a variety of free resources to help your marriage and business succeed.
And feel free to leave us a review and share this episode with another married entrepreneur. That would mean so much to us.
See you next week.